Doctor wiped down the alien specimen containers for the third time that morning. The scientists barely looked at her as they discussed their research in their crystal-like voices. She was just the human cleaner, after all. Someone to handle the dirty work while the real scientists did important things. Had 3 degrees in biology and had published papers that revolutionized disease treatment. But none of that mattered here on station. The galaxy saw humans as peaceful helpers, nothing more. She listened carefully as they talked. They thought humans could not understand their language properly. They were wrong. Understood every word. She had been studying alien languages for years, just like thousands of other humans throughout the galaxy. "The compliance rates are excellent," one said, his crystal body glowing blue with satisfaction. "The subjects show 97% acceptance of new directives." "What about the population?" asked another. 94%. The organic components respond well to the treatment. The machine parts require different methods. His hand stayed steady as she cleaned, but her mind raced. What treatment? What directives? She filed away every word in her memory. Across the galaxy, Commander faced his own frustrations. He sat in the Concordat council chambers, watching alien representatives argue about trade routes. As usual, the humans were not allowed to speak unless directly asked a question. Had been trained as a diplomat, but his real job seemed to be standing quietly and looking harmless. The 3 major powers, the crystal, the gas cloud, and the machine hybrid, made all the real decisions. Humans just carried out orders. "Commander," the representative's voice echoed from its containment suit, "your people will mediate the mining dispute on 7. You will ensure both sides reach an acceptable agreement." Bowed his head respectfully. "Of course, honored counselor, humans are happy to serve the peace." But inside felt tired, always serving, always mediating other people's problems, never being asked what humans wanted or needed. It had been this way since Earth joined the Concordat 200 years ago. After the session ended, walked through the station corridors. He passed human workers everywhere cleaning floors, fixing equipment, serving food to alien crews. They all wore the same expression of quiet acceptance. This was simply how things were. He remembered his grandmother's stories about Earth before the Concordat. She used to tell tales that seemed impossible, humans flying between stars in great warships, building massive cities, creating amazing technologies. But those were just old stories. Everyone knew humans had always been peaceful. The official records proved it. Still, sometimes wondered, if humans were so naturally peaceful, why did he sometimes wake up from dreams where he was fighting? Why did simple exercises feel like half-remembered combat training? Why did his hands automatically move to his belt when surprised, as if reaching for weapons that were not there? Finished her cleaning duties and made her way to the station's lower levels. She had permission to study the biological samples there. It was considered safe work for a human important enough to be useful, but not important enough to threaten anyone. She activated her personal computer and began analyzing the day's data. What she found made her stomach twist with worry. Every biological sample from every alien species in the Concordat showed the same thing. Their brain chemistry had been altered. Neural pathways that controlled aggression and independent thinking had been weakened. Pathways that controlled obedience and contentment had been strengthened. Checked her data again and again. The pattern was clear in every species except humans. Human samples showed completely normal brain chemistry. No artificial alterations, no chemical controls, just natural human biology exactly as it should be. Sat back in her chair, thinking hard. If every other species had been chemically altered to be more obedient, but humans had not, what did that mean? Were humans naturally immune to whatever caused these changes? Or had someone decided not to alter humans for some other reason? She thought about her daily interactions with alien scientists. They treated humans like simple-minded servants, but they also seemed very careful around them. They never left humans alone with important equipment. They never discussed truly secret matters in front of humans. It was almost like they were afraid of something. Began searching through the station's biological databases. She needed to know more about how these brain alterations happened. Were they natural? Were they caused by diseases? Or were they done on purpose? What she found in the restricted files made her blood run cold. The alterations were not natural. They were not caused by random diseases. They had been deliberately created and spread by someone with advanced knowledge of alien biology. Someone who wanted to make entire species more obedient and less capable of independent action. Her hands shook as she read the technical details. This was not just genetic modification. This was the systematic enslavement of entire civilizations, done so carefully that the victims probably did not even realize what had happened to them. She thought about all the alien species she had met. They all seemed content with their lives, happy to follow orders from the three major powers. They never questioned why some species ruled while others served. They simply accepted it as natural. But humans had not been altered. Humans still had their natural brain chemistry. Did that mean humans were immune, or did it mean something else entirely? Made copies of all the data and hid them in secure files. She needed to share this information with other humans. She needed to find out if anyone else had noticed these patterns. As she prepared to leave the laboratory, felt a strange feeling growing inside her. For the first time in years, she felt angry. Not just frustrated or annoyed, but truly angry. Someone had turned entire civilizations into willing slaves. Someone had convinced the galaxy that this was normal and natural. Someone had made sure humans were seen as weak and harmless while keeping them ignorant of the truth. Did not know who was responsible yet, but she was determined to find out, and when she did, there would be consequences. The galaxy thought humans were peaceful and docile, was beginning to suspect that was exactly what someone wanted them to think. But she was also beginning to suspect that appearances could be very deceiving. Something was terribly wrong with the Concordat, and was going to find out what. Spent 3 weeks carefully searching through the Concordat's biological databases. Every night after her cleaning duties, she would return to the laboratory and dig deeper into the restricted files. What she found grew worse each day. The neural modifications were part of something called Project Gentle Hand. The files were heavily encrypted, but xenobiology clearance gave her access to technical details that revealed the horrifying scope of the operation. Every species that joined the Concordat had been infected with specially designed pathogens before first contact. These biological agents rewrote brain chemistry over several generations, making entire populations more cooperative and less aggressive. The process was so gradual that no one noticed it happening. Found detailed reports on dozens of species. They had been fierce warriors before infection. Now they were content farmers. They had been independent explorers. Now they happily worked in alien factories. Species after species had been systematically transformed from free peoples into willing servants. But the files on humans were different. The infection protocol had failed completely. Something about human biology made them immune to the compliance pathogens. The Project Gentle Hand scientists had tried 17 different biological agents on human test subjects. None had worked. Read the final report with growing horror. Since biological control had failed, the three major powers had decided on psychological manipulation instead. They would rewrite human history, suppress knowledge of human capabilities, and use social pressure to keep humans docile. Humans must never learn their true nature, the report concluded. Their immunity to biological compliance makes them extremely dangerous if they discover the truth about the Concordat. Saved copies of everything and began looking for other humans who might listen to her. She needed help, but she had to be careful. The files suggested that humans who asked too many questions sometimes had accidents. Meanwhile was conducting his own investigation. His friend and mentor, Ambassador Sarah, had died in what officials called a shuttlecraft malfunction, but had examined the wreckage himself. The damage patterns were wrong for a mechanical failure. Someone had sabotaged Sarah's ship. Requested access to Sarah's personal files. What he found confirmed his suspicions. Sarah had been researching historical inconsistencies in Concordat records about human first contact. She had found evidence that the official story about humanity's peaceful integration was completely false. According to Concordat records, humans had eagerly joined the galactic community after peaceful first contact. Human leaders had supposedly been impressed by alien technology and wisdom, willingly accepting junior status in exchange for protection and guidance. But Sarah had found older records, hidden deep in military archives. These files told a very different story. Humans had not joined the Concordat peacefully. First contact had led to immediate conflict when alien ships began dropping mysterious canisters into Earth's atmosphere. Human military forces had responded with unexpected ferocity and effectiveness. The war had lasted 3 years. Human forces had not only held their own against 3 major galactic powers, they had actually been winning. Human ships used tactics and technologies that aliens had never encountered before. Human ground forces had proven nearly impossible to defeat. The conflict had ended only when alien forces threatened to destroy Earth entirely with antimatter weapons. Faced with the complete extinction of their species, human leaders had agreed to surrender. But even the surrender terms showed human negotiating strength. Instead of total destruction, humans would accept cultural rehabilitation and integration into Concordat society. Found Sarah's private notes about what cultural rehabilitation really meant. Systematic suppression of human history, removal of all records of human military capabilities, replacement of human cultural values with alien-approved versions, and most disturbing of all, the gradual elimination of any humans who might remember the truth. Sarah had been close to proving that dozens of human historians, military officers, and political leaders had been quietly killed over the past 2 centuries. Anyone who questioned the official story, too, loudly simply disappeared. Realized that Sarah's death was not random. She had been murdered because she was about to expose the truth about humanity's real history. And met by chance in the station's human quarters, had been looking for someone to trust with her biological discoveries, had been searching for anyone who might have information about the conspiracy he was uncovering. They shared their findings in whispered conversations over several days. Biological evidence combined with historical research painted a terrifying picture. The Concordat was not a peaceful alliance of equals. It was a system of slavery disguised as cooperation. The 3 major powers controlled dozens of enslaved species through biological manipulation. They controlled humans through lies and murder. But research revealed something even more disturbing. She had found shipping records showing regular transport of biological samples from controlled worlds to secret facilities. When she traced these shipments, she discovered that every species had been completely stripped of resources after the population was relocated to work stations throughout the galaxy. "They're not preserving our cultures," whispered two. "They're destroying our and using us as slave labor." Pulled up the official schedules for cultural preservation projects. His face went pale as he found Earth's entry. "Look at this. Earth is scheduled for ecological preservation in 3 months. They both understood what that really meant. Humanity would be scattered across the galaxy to work stations and factories. Earth would be strip-mined for resources, and any humans who might remember their true history would have accidents during the relocation process. Check the biological data one more time. There's something else. The compliance pathogens don't just make species obedient, they make them forget. Each generation remembers less of their original culture. Within a few hundred years, enslaved species forget they were ever free. But humans weren't infected, said slowly. Exactly. We still remember everything, even if they've tried to hide it from us. Somewhere in human genetic memory, we still know who we really are. They realized they had very little time. If Earth was going to be preserved, in 3 months, the conspiracy would move quickly to eliminate any humans who might cause trouble, and began making careful plans. They needed to warn other humans without alerting alien surveillance. They needed to find any other humans who had discovered pieces of the truth. And most importantly, they needed to find out if humanity had any way to fight back. As they prepared to leave their meeting, Grab's arm. There's one more thing in the files, something called the Terran Response Doctrine. The aliens seem very worried about it, but I can't find any details. Frowned. I've never heard that term before. But if the aliens are worried about it, maybe it's something that could help us. Neither of them realized that their investigation had already triggered automatic surveillance systems. Somewhere in the depths of station, alien monitoring programs were analyzing their conversations and flagging them as potential security threats. The countdown to Earth's preservation had begun. But were about to discover that they were not the first humans to uncover the truth about the Concordat. And they were definitely not the only ones who were angry about it. 2 days after and shared their discoveries, received an unexpected message. It was hidden inside routine maintenance schedules for her laboratory equipment. To anyone else, it would look like normal technical instructions, but notice something strange about the word patterns. The message was coded. When she decoded it, she found coordinates and a simple instruction: meet tonight, observation deck 7, come alone. Debated whether to trust the message. It could be a trap, but she realized that if aliens wanted to capture her, they would not need to use codes. They would simply take her. That evening, made her way to observation deck 7. It was a small viewing area used mainly by maintenance crews. She found a man waiting for her, an older human with graying hair and tired eyes. "Doctor," he said quietly, "my name is James Wright. I'm a historian, and I know you've been asking dangerous questions." Tensed, ready to run, but James held up his hands peacefully. "I'm not here to stop you," he said. "I'm here to help. You're not the first human to discover the truth about Project Gentle Hand, and you're certainly not the only one who's angry about it." James led through a series of maintenance tunnels to a hidden room deep in the station's infrastructure. Inside, she found 5 other humans working quietly at computer terminals and examining technical documents. "Welcome to the Resistance," James said with a sad smile, "though we prefer to call ourselves the Memory Keepers." Met the others quickly. Captain Lisa commanded a mining ship and had spent years secretly documenting what really happened to Preserved. Engineer Tom worked on alien technology and had discovered that most Concordat innovations were actually inferior copies of suppressed human designs. Dr. Foster was a psychologist who treated humans suffering from what she called historical dysphoria, the mental stress caused when genetic memories conflicted with official history. "How long have you known?" asked. "Some of us have suspected for decades," James replied. "I've been collecting evidence for 30 years, but we've had to be incredibly careful. Humans who ask too many questions have accidents." James showed his secret files. He had documented hundreds of suspicious deaths over the past 2 centuries. Human scientists who made breakthrough discoveries. Human leaders who questioned Concordat policies. Human historians who studied pre-contact records. All had died in accidents or disappeared entirely. "They've been systematically eliminating anyone who might remember or discover the truth," James explained. "But they can't kill all of us without making it obvious. So they're careful, patient. They remove threats slowly." Captain pulled up star charts showing the real locations of preserved. You need to see this. Every world the Concordat claims to be preserving has been completely strip-mined. There's nothing left but dead rock and mining equipment. The images were horrifying. Worlds that were supposedly being protected for future generations had been reduced to empty husks. Entire ecosystems had been destroyed to extract rare metals and energy sources. How many species know the truth about there? Asked. None, said sadly. The compliance pathogens ensure they don't ask questions. Even if you showed them these images, they would find ways to rationalize them. They're biologically incapable of accepting evidence that contradicts their master's instructions. Tom activated a holographic display showing technical specifications. But here's what really should make you angry. Most of the technology the aliens use as proof of their superiority. It's based on human designs that they stole during the war. Stared at the technical readouts. Faster-than-light engines, energy weapons, medical devices, communication systems, all showed clear signs of human engineering principles, but made less efficient. The aliens won the war through overwhelming numbers and the threat of planetary destruction, Tom explained. But they never actually surpassed human technology. They've been using modified versions of our innovations for 2 centuries while pretending they invented them. James brought to a secure terminal. There's more. We've found references to something called the Terran Response Doctrine in captured alien communications. They're terrified of it, but we haven't been able to figure out what it is. Read through the intercepted messages. Alien military commanders regularly discussed TRD protocols and contingency measures in case humans ever discovered their true history. The messages suggested that aliens had specific plans for dealing with Terran awakening events. They're afraid of something, said. Something about humans specifically. We think so too, James replied. But we haven't been able to find any human records of this response doctrine. Either it was too secret or it's still active, finished. The group worked through the night, sharing information and planning their next moves. Learned that there were memory keeper cells on dozens of stations and ships throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of humans had quietly been documenting the truth and preparing for something. Preparing for what? Asked. James looked at the others before answering. We don't know exactly, but 3 weeks ago we started receiving coded messages from unknown sources. The messages contain coordinates and activation codes. Someone is sending instructions to humans throughout the galaxy. Tom pulled up a star chart showing transmission origins. The signals are coming from deep space, from coordinates that aren't supposed to have anything important. But when we analyzed the transmission patterns, we found something interesting. The chart showed dozens of signal sources scattered throughout the galaxy. They appeared random at first, but noticed a pattern. These locations, she said slowly, they're all near major alien military installations, but hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae where ships wouldn't normally go. Exactly, Lisa said. We think there are hidden facilities out there, human facilities that have been waiting for something. Pulled up psychological profiles of humans throughout the galaxy. We've been tracking something strange for months. Humans everywhere are reporting the same types of dreams. Dreams about fighting. Dreams about advanced weapons. Dreams about things they shouldn't know anything about. Thought about her own strange dreams, and comments about instinctive combat movements. What if it's not just dreams? She asked. What if our genetic memory is stronger than anyone realizes? What if humans are starting to remember things that were never completely forgotten? James nodded grimly. That's what we're afraid of, or hopping for depending on how you look at it. Something is awakening in human consciousness, and the aliens know it. He showed her the most recent intercepted communications. Alien fleets were quietly moving toward major human population centers. Supply convoys were being rerouted to support rapid military deployment. Security protocols were being upgraded at all major installations with human workers. "They're preparing for something big," James said. "The question is whether we can figure out what's happening before they act." Realized that her discovery of Project Gentle Hand was just the beginning. There was a much larger conspiracy at work, spanning centuries and involving carefully hidden preparations by both humans and aliens. "James, we need to contact," said. "He's discovered evidence about human military history that might connect to these hidden facilities." "We know about Commander," said. "He's been under surveillance since his investigation into Ambassador's death. We haven't been able to safely contact him." Felt a chill of fear. If was being watched, then her meetings with him had probably been noticed as well. "How much time do we have?" she asked. James checked the countdown to Earth's scheduled preservation. "Less than 11 weeks, but based on alien fleet movements, we think they might accelerate their timeline if they detect increased human resistance activity." Looked around the room at the other memory keepers. They were all ordinary humans who had stumbled onto the truth and chosen to fight rather than accept comfortable slavery. But they were also clearly outmatched by the resources and technology of three major galactic powers. "What chance do we really have?" asked quietly. James smiled for the first time since she had met him. "You're thinking like humans are still the helpless species the aliens want us to believe we are. But consider this. Why have they spent 2 centuries so carefully controlling us? Why not just eliminate humans entirely if we're such a threat?" "Thought about it, because they need us for something. Or because they're afraid of what would happen if they tried," James replied. "Something about humans scares them, something that made them choose deception over destruction, and I think we're about to find out what that is." The memory keepers continued planning through the night, but could not shake the feeling that larger forces were already in motion. Hidden facilities, genetic memories, alien fears, and mysterious signals all pointed to something much bigger than a small resistance movement. Somewhere in the depth of space, systems that had waited 2 centuries were beginning to activate. The memory keepers made their decision after 3 days of desperate planning. James Wright had decoded the mysterious signals and discovered they contained activation protocols for the hidden facilities. With Earth's preservation only 10 weeks away, they could not wait any longer to find out what those facilities contained. And James traveled together in Lisa's mining ship to the nearest signal source. The coordinates led them to an asteroid field in the Sigma Draconis system, where sensors detected nothing but empty space and drifting rocks. "Are you sure this is right?" asked as they approached the target coordinates. James checked the signal data again. "The transmissions are definitely coming from here, but I'm not seeing anything on sensors." Tom had modified their ship's scanning equipment with technology he had reverse-engineered from alien systems. His enhanced scans revealed something extraordinary hidden deep inside the largest asteroid. "There's a massive artificial structure in there," Tom reported. "The asteroid is hollow, and something huge is concealed inside." James activated the protocol codes from the mysterious transmissions. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the asteroid began to split open like a flower, revealing gleaming metal corridors and docking bays that looked distinctly human in design. "By all the stars," Lisa whispered, "how long has this been here?" They docked their ship and entered the facility through airlocks that recognized Lisa's ship as human-designed. Emergency lighting activated as they moved through corridors lined with equipment that looked far more advanced than anything had seen in the Concordat. The facility was enormous. They passed through laboratories filled with research equipment, workshops containing partially assembled devices they could not identify, and storage areas holding thousands of containers marked with biohazard symbols. At the center of the facility, They found a control room dominated by a massive computer system. When James entered the activation codes, the computers came online and began displaying status reports from similar facilities throughout the galaxy. "There are dozens of these bases," said, reading the displays. "All of them have been dormant for over 200 years. The computers guided them to a medical facility where they found hundreds of cryogenic chambers. Most were empty, but several still contained human occupants in suspended animation. The chamber displays showed the occupants had been in for exactly 203 years. Activated the revival sequence for the chamber marked Command Authority. The process took several hours, but finally the chamber opened to reveal a woman in her 50s wearing a military uniform did not recognize. The woman's first words after 2 centuries of sleep were, "Status report. Has the Terran response doctrine been activated?" "Ma'am," James said carefully, "we're not military. We're civilians who discovered this facility. We don't know anything about a Terran response doctrine." The woman sat up slowly, her mind clearly adjusting to consciousness after centuries of sleep. "I am Admiral Vale, Supreme Commander of Terran Defense Forces. If you found this facility and successfully activated revival protocols, then certain conditions have been met." Admiral Vale reviewed the computer displays, reading status reports and timeline data with growing satisfaction. "Excellent. Phase 1 has been completed successfully. All intelligence targets have been achieved. Population dispersal is optimal. Resource mapping is complete." Found her voice. "Admiral, we don't understand. What is Phase 1? What intelligence targets?" Admiral Vale looked at them with sharp, intelligent eyes. "The Terran Response Doctrine is a multi-generational military operation designed to gather complete intelligence on alien capabilities while concealing humanity's true nature. Phase 1 involved strategic surrender, voluntary dispersal of human population throughout enemy territories, and systematic intelligence collection." Felt confused. "Strategic surrender? Admiral, we lost the war. Humanity was defeated and forced to accept servitude." "That's what we wanted them to believe," Vale replied. "The surrender was carefully planned to give us maximum access to alien territories, technology, and command structures, while making them believe they had neutralized the human threat." Admiral Vale led them to a briefing room where holographic displays showed the true scope of human operations over the past 2 centuries. Watched in amazement as the displays revealed intelligence networks, technical analysis projects, and strategic positioning that spanned the entire galaxy. "Every human servant has been an intelligence operative," Vale explained. "Every human mediator has been mapping alien political weaknesses. Every human worker has been gathering technical specifications and planting dormant devices." Tom stared at technical readouts, showing human-designed equipment hidden throughout alien infrastructure. "Admiral, are you saying that humans have been sabotaging alien technology for 200 years?" "Not sabotaging," Vale corrected. "Preparing. Every piece of equipment humans have maintained contains microscopic devices that can be activated on command. Every computer system humans have cleaned contains hidden programs waiting for the right signal." Thought about her own work cleaning alien laboratories. "Admiral, what about the biological research, the compliance pathogens?" Vale's expression grew grim. "We knew about Project Gentle Hand before first contact. Human immunity to their biological controls was not accidental. We developed countermeasures decades before they tried to use them on us." The Admiral showed them classified files from the original war. Humanity had not simply resisted alien invasion. They had been preparing for it for years before first contact. Human scientists had intercepted alien transmissions and decoded their intentions long before alien ships arrived in Earth's solar system. "The war was never about winning through military force," Vale explained. "We knew we were outnumbered. The goal was to position ourselves for a long-term victory that the aliens would never see coming. Struggled to understand. But Admiral, billions of humans have lived and died as servants over the past 2 centuries. How can you call that victory? Because those humans accomplished something no other species managed, Vale replied. They maintained their essential humanity while mapping every weakness in alien civilization. They preserved human culture and knowledge while appearing to accept alien superiority. Admiral Vale activated a galaxy-wide communication system. Status reports began arriving from human operatives throughout Concordat space. Listened in amazement as ordinary human workers reported detailed intelligence on alien military assets, political structures, and economic systems. Phase 2 was always intended to begin when aliens moved to eliminate the human population, Vale continued. Their decision to preserve Earth ahead of schedule indicates they've detected increased human resistance activity. Realize the implications. You've been waiting for them to try to destroy us. We've been waiting for them to reveal their true intentions openly, Vale corrected. As long as they maintained the fiction of peaceful cooperation, we continued gathering intelligence. But attempted genocide requires a different response. The Admiral began inputting commands into the facility's communication systems. All human operatives throughout the galaxy are about to receive new orders. 2 centuries of intelligence gathering is about to become the foundation for the most comprehensive military operation in galactic history. Tom reviewed technical specifications on the displays. Admiral, the equipment in this facility is far more advanced than anything I've seen. How is this possible? Human technology never stopped advancing, Vale replied. It was simply hidden. While aliens used versions of captured human innovations, human engineers continued developing improvements. We now possess capabilities that alien civilizations cannot even imagine. Admiral Vale showed them manufacturing facilities hidden throughout the asteroid field. Automated systems had been producing weapons, ships, and equipment for 2 centuries, all while remaining completely hidden from alien detection. Every human throughout the galaxy has been unconsciously prepared for activation, Vale explained. Genetic triggers, subliminal conditioning, and embedded memories have been carefully maintained across generations. When Phase 2 begins, millions of humans will simultaneously remember training and knowledge they never knew they possessed. Thought about her strange dreams and instinctive combat movements. Admiral, you're saying that humans throughout the galaxy are sleeper agents who don't even know they're sleeper agents. Exactly. The compliance pathogens failed because human biology actively resisted them. But we took that resistance further. Every human born in the past 2 centuries carries genetic modifications that allow for rapid activation of suppressed capabilities. Felt a chill of excitement and fear. What happens when you activate Phase 2? Admiral Vale's smile was cold and determined. The galaxy discovers what happens when you try to enslave a species that spent 200 years learning everything about you while hiding everything about themselves. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the facility. The displays showed alien fleets moving toward human population centers throughout the galaxy, arriving weeks ahead of their original schedules. They know something is happening, said. Yes, Vale replied calmly, but it's too late to stop it now. Phase 2 begins immediately. Admiral Vale entered final authorization codes into the communication system. Across the galaxy, millions of humans were about to receive activation signals that would change everything. The longest military operation in galactic history was about to enter its final phase, and the aliens had no idea what was coming. Admiral Vale's activation signal reached every human in the galaxy simultaneously. On thousands of worlds, space stations, and ships, ordinary human servants suddenly stopped their daily routines as buried memories began surfacing in their minds. watched the transformation begin on the facility's monitoring systems. Reports flooded in from human operatives who had spent lifetimes pretending to be simple workers. But now, their hidden training was activating, and 2 centuries of careful preparation was about to be unleashed. The first phase happened within minutes. Human engineers throughout the galaxy activated devices they had hidden in alien infrastructure over decades of maintenance work. Critical systems began failing on alien ships, stations, and planetary installations. But the failures were not random. They followed precise patterns that cut off alien communication networks and isolated military units. Phase 2 Alpha is complete, Admiral Vale announced as status reports continued arriving. Enemy communications disrupted, military assets isolated, moving to Phase Beta. Watched in amazement as the displays showed human workers aboard alien vessels revealing themselves as trained saboteurs. Ship after ship reported propulsion failures, weapon malfunctions, and life support problems. But instead of random chaos, the sabotage followed careful plans that left alien crews helpless but alive. Observed tactical displays showing alien fleet movements grinding to a halt as ships found themselves unable to coordinate or function properly. Admiral, how did you plan this so precisely? 200 years of intelligence gathering, Vale replied. We know the location of every alien ship, the layout of every installation, and the identity of every key personnel. Our operatives have been in position for generations. On the crystalline worlds of the Dominion, human mediators who had spent decades learning alien psychology suddenly revealed their true purpose. Instead of helping resolve conflicts, they began systematically triggering pre-planned coups and civil wars using their intimate knowledge of political weaknesses. They had relied on complex hierarchical structures for social stability. Human operatives activated strategic depositions that collapsed their entire governmental system within hours. Leaders found themselves fighting each other instead of responding to the human uprising. In the gas clouds of the collective, human technicians revealed that they had been installing quantum viruses in communication networks for decades. The viruses activated simultaneously, causing complete breakdown of the collective consciousness that held society together. Individuals suddenly found themselves isolated and unable to coordinate with their collective mind. Their massive group intelligence fractured into millions of confused individuals who had never learned to function independently. The machine hybrid empire faced the most devastating sabotage of all. Human workers had spent generations maintaining technology, secretly installing control programs that could turn machine components against their biological operators. When these programs activated, cyborgs found their own machine parts rebelling against them. Infrastructure is completely compromised, reported one of Vale's communications officers. Their machine components are following our commands instead of theirs. Watched the displays showing the systematic collapse of 3 galactic superpowers. But she also noticed something else. Human forces were being remarkably careful to minimize casualties among alien civilian populations. Admiral, why aren't we just destroying them? Asked. They tried to enslave the entire galaxy. Because that would make us no better than they are, Vale replied. The Terran response doctrine is about liberation, not extermination. We're targeting power structures, not innocent populations. Meanwhile, hidden human bases throughout the galaxy were revealing themselves and launching coordinated military operations. Facilities that had been concealed for centuries suddenly emerged from asteroids, nebulae, and planetary surfaces. Each base contained fleets of advanced human ships that had been built in complete secrecy. Earth itself underwent the most dramatic transformation. As alien fleets approached the planet for its scheduled preservation, massive defense platforms rose from underground installations throughout the planet. The approaching aliens found themselves facing not a helpless world, but the most heavily fortified planet in galactic history. Tom monitored the technical aspects of the operation. "Admiral, our technology is decades ahead of anything the aliens possess. How did we advance so far while staying hidden?" "Human innovation never stopped," Vale explained. "While aliens used versions of captured human designs, we continued developing improvements. Hidden research facilities have been advancing human science for 2 centuries. The space battle around Earth lasted only 6 hours. Alien ships designed for overwhelming primitive civilizations were completely outmatched by human vessels incorporating centuries of technological advancement. But again, human forces focused on disabling rather than destroying alien ships. Throughout the galaxy, liberated alien species watched in amazement as human forces systematically dismantled the Concordat's control systems, monitored biological reports as humans deployed antidotes to compliance pathogens, freeing enslaved populations from chemical control for the first time in centuries. "The compliance antidotes are working perfectly," reported. "Freed alien populations are beginning to remember their original cultures and question their servitude." Admiral Vale activated the final phase of the operation. Phase 2, Gamma Liberation Protocol. All human operatives are authorized to reveal the truth about Concordat operations to freed alien populations. Watched as human operatives throughout the galaxy began broadcasting evidence of Project Gentle Hand, showing freed alien species the truth about their enslavement. The reaction was immediate, and overwhelming newly liberated populations joined human forces in dismantling the remaining Concordat infrastructure. Within 1 week, 3 galactic superpowers had been completely defeated. Their military forces were disabled, their governments had collapsed, and their enslaved populations were free for the first time in. But Admiral Vale's most important decision came during the aftermath. The defeated alien populations faced a choice between prosecution for centuries of slavery or rehabilitation programs that would help them build new societies. Admiral said, "Many of these aliens were directly responsible for the enslavement and murder of billions. Don't they deserve punishment?" Vale considered the question carefully. Punishment serves justice, but it doesn't serve peace. These civilizations built their entire identity around the subjugation of others. If we force them to remember their defeat and humiliation, they'll spend centuries plotting revenge. Instead, Admiral Vale authorized what she called merciful forgetting. Using advanced human biotechnology, medical teams began systematically modifying the memories of former Concordat leaders and military personnel. Their memories of enslaving other species were replaced with false memories of gradual societal collapse due to internal problems. Watched the memory modification procedures with mixed feelings. "Admiral, isn't this the same kind of manipulation they used on other species?" "No," Vale replied. "We're not controlling them or making them obedient. We're giving them the chance to build better civilizations without the psychological burden of remembering their crimes. Their children will grow up in a galaxy where slavery was never normal." Worked with rehabilitation teams to help freed alien species rebuild their cultures and governments. Species that had forgotten their original languages began remembering them. Worlds that had been strip-mined were seeded with genetic samples preserved in human facilities. Extinct species were restored using DNA that human scientists had secretly collected over 2 centuries. The process took months, but gradually a new galactic civilization emerged. Instead of the hierarchical Concordat with its enslaved species, a democratic federation was established where all species participated as equals. Found herself serving as the Federation's chief, helping species recover from biological manipulation and restore their natural characteristics. Became a diplomatic coordinator, using his knowledge of alien psychology to help species work together peacefully. 6 months after the activation of the Terran Response Doctrine, sat in her new office writing her final report on the operation. Earth had become the Federation's capital, not through conquest but through the voluntary choice of grateful species. Today marks the end of the Terran Response Protocol, wrote in her log entry. The longest military operation in galactic history has been completed successfully. 3 hostile civilizations have been peacefully transformed into democratic societies. Dozens of enslaved species have been liberated and restored to independence. Paused in her writing and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, former Concordat species were building new lives in freedom. They would never remember being enslaved because humans had chosen mercy over justice. No species in this galaxy will remember the day humans finally said, "Enough," continued writing, because we ensured they wouldn't have to carry that burden. The galaxy will know only that they were freed from tyranny and given a chance to build something better. Finished her report and sealed it in the historical archives. Future generations would know the truth about the Terran Response Doctrine, but the species it had liberated would remember only that freedom had come peacefully, through cooperation rather than conquest. Admiral Vale had been right about one thing. True victory was not about defeating enemies. It was about creating a galaxy where such enemies never needed to exist in the first place. Looked up at the stars one more time before returning to her work. There was still much to do in building the new Federation, but for the first time in centuries, every species in the galaxy was truly free to choose their own destiny. The day humans finally said, "Enough," had indeed become a moment no civilization would remember, and perhaps that was the greatest kindness humanity had ever shown.